I would say it is not advised to do the Phantom Muspah at level 55 range and 60 defense, but you know what? I did it anyway. I'm going to assume that you have no idea who I am or why I even have an account with these levels that has finished the quest Secrets in the North. So let me catch you up real quick. I have been making a series where I've been building an alt account with my first goal to dolo bandos. Coincidentally, at the time of the Winter Summit when Secrets of the North release date was announced, I had just finished all the requirements for making friends with my arm so that I could build the fire of unseasonal warmth outside the God Wars dungeon. But a great person once said, intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. Meaning, the first goal of my account has changed to dolo the Phantom Muspah. New content that my account is literally built to do on release. Sign me the frick up. So I got to work doing all the requirements as fast as possible, and while the ultimate goal is to dolo this boss, my first goal is to kill this boss with as minimal stats and gear as I could with my skill. I started the quest with 53 range, 60 defense, and 64 HP. The first boss, Evelot, was a breeze. The assassin boss actually took me a couple of tries because I was making a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of unavoidable damage in that fight. But I managed to kill him as he killed me, and it happened to progress me to the next step of the quest, so I'll take that as a win. After struggling with the assassin, I was kind of nervous for the quest version of the Phantom, but I shouldn't have been. I actually wrecked his ass. I even forgot to level up my prayer to 52 so that I could smite him during the prayer shield phase. But as I said, I wrecked his ass even without smite, finishing the fight with an inventory full of food. Now I was ready to attempt the real version of the boss. Boys, how did I forget? I am officially the new worst content creator. Somehow managed to not record that entire fight. I just took a clip as soon as I turned my recorder on, but it was, all of a sudden I looked over and I didn't see it. OBS was not recording. But boys, you just did a 55. Now I have to do another one of these stupid kills. Okay, now let's talk about why I'm so rattled to film another fight. The Phantom Muspah has a max hit of 64, and with only 64 HP, that means if I make one mistake with my prayers, then I could die. But that's only the beginning. The majority of the damage I do in this fight with these stats is relying on the Ruby Bolt enchanted special effect. This effect only has a 6% chance to activate, and I need it to go off about 8 times, meaning this fight is going to take a long time. However, it is possible to drag out this fight for an extremely long time because you can avoid about 90% of all damage if you path correctly and use the correct prayers, which is easier said than done over a period of like 10 minutes. Now the absolute worst part of all of this is that even if everything goes smoothly, there are 2 possible ways that I can die simply due to bad luck. If the spikes that spawn randomly around the room decide to just make a huge wall towards the middle, then it can make it pretty much impossible to avoid taking damage from the melee form. Game's stupid. Now I thought that this was the only real way I could get unlucky. We just got our kill, let's go! Look at our stats, 80. I should probably wait till celebrate till after I get the kill. But I had the pleasure of finding out that if you do not do enough damage to the boss in his final enraged form, then the room will completely fill with spikes, making it impossible to finish the kill. With all that in mind, here is how I defied all odds as a gamer who mostly does basic mechanics. The inventory I used was 2 staminas, 4 prayer pots, the rest filled with food, and a few combo eats. I used the best gear I really have available at my level, besides a Robin Hood hat and ranger boots. I felt they were unnecessary for the price tags. I chose not to bring magic for a couple of reasons. I only have the normal spellbook, and with 63 magic, the best spell I can use to freeze the boss is Snare. This only freezes the boss for half of the time of an ice barrage. All the damage in melee phase is avoidable without freezing anyway, as long as you don't get too unlucky with spikes. The other reason is that it simply won't outdo DPS the Ruby Bolt E special effect with my levels. The final reason, which I didn't even realize was a thing until I attempted this boss, is that normal spells take longer to cast than using a trident or a sang staff. Meaning when you're trying to freeze the boss, you actually need a larger gap between you and the boss before you can use the spell without taking damage. It makes it way harder to kite while using normal spells. And so it makes more sense for me to just have more food. I brought lots of prayer and staminas because it's likely they would be my limiting factor in a successful fight instead of food. The only reason I should be taking a lot of damage is if I make mistakes, or if the spikes decide to make a wall in the middle of the room, which essentially makes the kill impossible anyways. As you can see in these first 5 seconds, the fight is pretty heated. But then fast forward and bam, I smack the mans with the first Ruby Bolt spec, and now the kid is on the run. Now the first melee phase of the fight is always the easiest, and I literally thought about teleporting away because I immediately took this unnecessary damage. But chose to stick to my guns and not get too rattled. I was many fights deep, and I knew that I'm bound to make mistakes in every fight, so let that be my only mistake in this fight. So as I'm pathing here, I keep in mind it's important that I get as many shots out as possible to get the Ruby Bolts to proc before I run out of stamina or prayer. With the crossbow, that means shooting every time I see the tile indicator move 4 times, as long as I am clicking to run away immediately after I click on the boss. I'm still not perfect at this, but it is even higher priority to not get hit by the boss. Taking damage in this fight will prevent me from getting the kill. On a main, taking melee damage means less kills per trip, but as long as you prioritize running away, you can literally do this boss forever. So if you're new to bossing, then this is a great strategy to keep in mind. But yeah, on the melee form, I basically do no damage unless it's a Ruby Bolt special effect. And the way the boss works is that it will stay in its current form until you do enough damage to it to change phases. And boom, 57 range. Literally grew 2 levels just trying to get 2 kills here. Again, growing this level shows that there's literally no reason in the world you should do this. You can get at least 64 range to use a dragon crossbow, so that you can use dragon Ruby Bolty, which are worth the money to use here. During the shadow phase, I always prioritize not taking damage. I'm not trying to go for a speedrun here, I'm just trying not to get dragged into the orbs. Big max hit of 21, by the way. I'm not sure what the damage threshold is to make the boss change phases, but I got one bolt proc in this melee phase for 75 and he didn't change form. I'm thinking the threshold is somewhere around 100, if not 100 itself. I then proceeded to run around this room for 4 minutes without getting any damage or any bolt procs. By the time I hit the next bolt proc, I think his health increased by around like 10 hit points, because I managed to make a mistake when I was pathing around the one wall that I was skipping. On a good kill with my main with a Bofa and Sang, I killed this boss in 3 minutes. I eventually got the bolt proc and proceeded to get 3 in a row, which is literally insane, but after going minutes running around the room with nothing, I will take it. Just 3 in a row. Now he goes back into melee phase here, and this is always the hardest part of the fight because of all the spawns of the spikes. You can simply just get screwed over, but you can see in this fight they're pretty humble, making the pathing here more difficult but far from impossible. I didn't get any sapphire bolts to proc during the prayer shield phase, so I just had to hash it out, and at this point it's been a long fight, and at the very end of the phase I made a crucial mistake that could have ended my run. The boss used a mage attack at the same time as the spikes spawned, and I should have prioritized putting Protect from Magic on, but thankfully it only hit me for like a humble 23. Now was time for the DPS check. I need to make sure I have Diamond Bolts E equipped and get as many attacks in as possible, meaning I need to avoid eating and unnecessary movements. The unfortunate thing for me at this point is that I was starting to run out of prayer, and I needed to use both Protect from Range and Eagle Eye to ensure that I was doing enough damage before the room fills with spikes. I pulled out the most advanced mechanic I know, which is one tick prayer flick. This is hard to do consistently, but it allows you to use your prayers without losing any prayer points when done correctly. And at the time, if you can see this little bar going across the screen here, it was really not moving consistently, which either means there's a problem with my internet or a problem with the server. And when you're doing one tick prayer flicking, it is extremely reliant on a consistent connection. Come on, please. Please. But we got her done. Let's go, boys. Let's go. The first full recorded kill. Oh, that's so good. Look at us. Look at us. Look at the stats. Look at the stats. Look at the gear, boys. Kill number 2. That was 14-minute kill. The first one was 9 minutes. That one was a trek and a half. Almost. Wow, that was a trek. But yeah, this is possible. Do I recommend it? No, because this took me many tries to get my second kill. Like, you need a little bit of luck. You can't make any mistakes, and it's hard. Like, it's very difficult. Highly don't recommend. However, I do recommend that you subscribe to the channel because my journey as an old school RuneScape content creator is just beginning.